What's going on? It's Brock. Welcome back to the channel. I'm glad that you're here. As you probably saw from the title of the video, today is going to be a full behind the scenes with a large 5-camera multicam shoot that I did a couple weeks ago. It went really well. I learned a lot. I think there's some things that I definitely could have done better. This was really my first time directing and planning something at this scale with as lofty goals as we had for what we wanted it to look and sound like. And I think it turned out pretty well. We're obviously in the editing phase now. We're nowhere close to done. It will probably take us months to get this thing edited down from an audio perspective along with the video itself. Even though we are still very early in the editing phase, I'm going to break down exactly the planning process, the gear choice, learning how to trust your people, learning how to work within the resources that you have. All of those things that I learned throughout this process, I'm going to share here. So buckle up, grab something to drink, and let's dive in. So just for some context, I'm a creative director at a church here in North Carolina, and this was something that we were shooting for our Christmas season coming up this winter, but we wanted to get a head start. So we're shooting Christmas in June, so that's why there's Christmas trees and all the things like that, but we wanted to get a head start on a full online Christmas experience that will have other elements beyond just this music video with the band playing type stuff. And regardless of your opinions on church in general, which we're not diving into that in this video, this stuff is applicable to pretty much any type of multicam live environment shooting when you're shooting a band or music or anything like that. Even music videos, you could learn some stuff from this. So that's kind of the context of what this project actually is. So the overarching idea for this project was to capture the band playing 6 different songs. They had been practicing for like 3 months, so they were really well versed, and the idea was for them to come in and be able to nail these within 2 to 3 takes. And we were capturing audio simultaneously while recording the video itself. The thing about this project that was a little daunting was just the planning. I knew I was going to have at times a 12, 13-piece band, and then sometimes I was going to have a 3-piece band. It just depended on the song. And so I needed to be able to have coverage for all of those scenarios within our budget. I didn't have the budget for 7 cam ops and 7 C70s to be able to really just capture this thing, fully organic handheld stuff. And I knew I was only going to probably have 3 or 4 cam ops. It ended up being 3 of us total. And so what happened is we had to do multiple takes to get the full coverage that we needed. I didn't really want a lot of cameras locked off on tripods. I just didn't want to go from these organic kind of handheld look to these locked off shots. I just didn't feel like that would flow very well. And so I knew that I needed to plan accordingly. We were going to have to do multiple takes. So a lot of this for me was listening to the songs over and over and over and over again, and then making notes on what instrument is prominent in this part, what instrument is prominent in this part, who's singing this verse, who's singing this verse. So I made sure that we were getting all of the things that we needed to get visually so that when we got the audio tracks back, when you hear a prominent thing within the song, we have a shot for that. Because you didn't want to have this really prominent musical part and then you have no visual to go along with it. It would be a little bit odd watching that, not having the visual representation from the audio that you're hearing. And I knew for us, in terms of the video team, it was probably going to take at least 2 takes for us to get the full coverage that we really needed to get. This planning was also really important in terms of what gear I needed to rent, because obviously I did not have enough gear, enough cameras to pull this off. I wanted to make the edit easy. I had a budget of basically $3,000 for the whole project. So I needed a multicam shoot. I need to be able to pay guys and rent gear for that price. So you guys probably know I own a C70. So my thought was, okay, I could rent probably 3 C70s and then be able to have the same color science and not have to worry about trying to match different cameras. So my goal was to try to rent cameras so they all look the same, if nothing else. If I could squeeze that into my budget to rent cameras, then I probably could figure everything else out. So that's exactly what I ended up doing. I ended up renting 3 C70s, and then I also rented a Aperture 1200D that was gonna be my main key light. I already had an 8x8 frame with a magic claw, so I knew that I kind of had my diffusion source, and I was probably gonna double diffuse that and throw the 1200D through it, or book light it, or bounce it, or whatever I ended up needing to do to get my large key source. So I was able to get all this stuff rented for 4 days, which was the minimum from Lens Pro to go, for right around $1,700–1,800 bucks. And to me, that was a great deal considering all of the things that I rented, and it allowed us to really pull this job off for a reasonable price that fit within my budget. And now this brings me to the rest of the budget, which was primarily going towards my camera operators themselves. I wanted to make sure that I could pay my guys, even though it probably wasn't as much as they would normally get. It was kind of a call and a favor kind of a moment. I was able to get my friend Mike and my friend Hudson to come up and help me with this shoot. Those guys are the best. I love those dudes, and I knew I could trust them. They were able to come up and help me pull this thing off in a way that I probably would not have been able to do by myself. And also, you should definitely go follow those guys because they're the best. They're better than me. They're amazing filmmakers. Their Instagrams are linked in my description, so go check those out. A big part of a shoot like this is you have to trust other people. You cannot have your hands on every shot that you need for every part of the song. You have to be able to trust people to get the shots that you know that you will need, that you can use in the edit without having to worry about them screwing it up or messing it up. And another big piece of this is to have good enough relationships with your crew so that if someone goofs during a take, they don't feel scared to speak up and say, hey man, I'll be honest with you, I messed that up. Can we run that again? Like, that is huge. Communication, just go ahead and land out there. We're all human. We're gonna mess up, and it's okay. And that allows us to basically move forward faster, and as opposed to getting to the edit like 2 or 3 months later, and then you look at it like, well, we don't have that shot because Brock didn't speak up and say he goofed. Like, that's the kind of thing that's important, is establishing communication and relational equity with your crew so that you're able to have the conversations needed and to be able to trust each other to get the job done. And another piece of that is just being prepared on your end. I was kind of acting as the director of the day, so I needed to make sure that my stuff was together. Was I perfect in that? Probably not. Again, this was kind of my first stab at something this large. I'm sure you could go ask Mike and Hudson in the DMs on Instagram, and they'll probably tell you if I did a good job or not, but it's important to be as prepared as you can possibly be. So that was kind of my role on set, trying to make sure that we had the coverage that we needed. I was checking my notes on my phone constantly just to make sure that we were on track and we weren't missing anything. Now, when it comes to lighting, obviously we used the big 1200D as the main key light. We ended up just double diffusing that, punching it through a small flag and then through the big 8x8 Magic, and it gave us a really nice, soft kind of key. Again, I'm working within resources here, so like you can kind of see the ceiling above the pipe and drape in the background. It's not ideal. There's moments where I wish we could have had negative fill across all of that and covered it and had a black ceiling or something like that so it would all disappear. Again, you're working within your budget and your constraints, because obviously with Christmas you think of the Christmas lights and the warm glow and all those things. So not only did I have those trees around, I did string some lights above from the top of the main Christmas tree to the edge of the frame so that it kind of had this leading line look to it, and it kind of gave us some eye candy. Once again, if we're shooting up, you get some bokeh in the background and make it feel like Christmas and cozy and all the things. A big thing with something like this, if you want it to feel like a live kind of organic music thing, you're gonna want hard backlight. I didn't diffuse the backlight at all. It was arguably pretty harsh at times, but that was not in a bad way. It just was the nature of it. We're not diffusing the backlight here. You want that pop. You want people to pop off the screen, especially if you don't have a lot of depth to work with. If you're kind of up and close to the pipe and drape, again, it kind of gives you a pop of color. Now, one thing I did notice is there was a couple songs where I did some blue backlight, and I probably would have done that differently. It just did some weird color cast on the skin, so it's going to be a little bit of a tougher grade in post, but hindsight, I probably would have maybe desaturated those lights a little bit, because I used the Amaran 150Cs as my color backlights, and then I had two Aperture 200Xs on the edges that were just kind of daylight balanced, and I wanted the color wash to kind of give it some interest, but I probably would have used the desaturation feature a little bit on the colors themselves so it didn't overload the sensor so heavily. I just did notice that a little bit. It's probably not gonna be a huge deal in the edit. I've already kind of looked at some of the footage. It'll probably be fine, but that's something that I did kind of learn. But the hard backlight is the way to go. It made the scene look great. And obviously, Haze is another big piece of this. There are some songs where we didn't really use Haze on because the Haze that we had, it was kind of irregular. It was pumping out big clouds, and it was hard to regulate in a smooth, kind of thin layer. So I was picking and choosing what songs to use it on. The slower songs, I was able to pump some in and where it made sense. But some of the faster songs, I didn't worry about Haze as much. And I think it looks good either way. I think Haze is definitely a look. It's just really frustrating to work with sometimes, especially in a big room like this. It just dissipates quickly. It doesn't hang as much around, and it just made it more difficult to try to get a consistent look throughout the day. And again, a resource limitation. If I had somebody that their whole job that day was the hazer, it would be different. Or if I had a budget for like a really, really nice hazer, it probably would have been different as well. But I was working within my budget and within my resources. And sometimes you have to make compromises. It just is what it is. Because all the lights were either Aperture or Amaran, it was awesome to have the Sidus Link Pro app. They were not on the DMX, but I had them on the Bluetooth connection. Dude, to be able to sit there from my iPad and change the looks per song without having to go around and twist the knobs on every light or using the control or whatever, it was super nice to be able to do that. There was some songs where we turned off the key completely and we just had a backlight looked for moments of it. It was really nice to have that flexibility on set. So, dude, getting your lights controlled from an iPad or some source like that is huge. I'm going to be trying to do that on more shoots going forward because it just really does make a difference. And it does streamline the whole workflow, especially if you're trying to get multiple looks out of one setup. You can really adjust things on the fly. Like if you're working with your director or your DP and you'll be able to sit there and kind of sit there together, look at the scene, make adjustments quickly without having to go around to each light and do that. So that was a big plus. If you don't do that, I would highly recommend it. Try to build your workflow around an app like that or DMX system or something like that because it really does make a difference. So I do want to quickly talk about camera support and kind of the idea for the style of filming this. We did have easy rigs. I rented an easy rig. Mike has a easy rig that's not easy rig brand. We call it the sleazy rig. It's awesome. It works great. And then we had a Dana Dolly that was kind of doing some push in and push outs that Hudson was rolling on. And there was different situations where we used each one. Sometimes we didn't use a Dana Dolly at all. There were songs where we just all went handheld. Basically what we did is on the first takes of every song, we would get the more wide shots, the more locked off stuff. So like the Dana Dolly push-ins and different things like that. Or if there was a song, like some of them had a saxophone on a couple songs. So I would shoot just the saxophone the first take. And then the next takes, we would go on a really good lead vocal close-up. And then the third one, if we had a third one, we would just get more instrument close-ups. And we were always just kind of moving around and making sure that we had the full coverage. So we kind of had a flow ahead of time that I talked with Mike about, and we kind of came up with a plan to approach and attack this shoot in a way that made sense for us and that allowed us to work within our constraints in terms of only having 3 manned cameras. We only ended up with 3. So we had to do a little bit more to get extra coverage. Obviously, I don't have the finished product to show you guys. I could just kind of keep showing you the frames and some of the visuals because I know that's what a lot of you care about anyway, but eventually I will probably share something from this shoot on this page. But I just wanted to go ahead and get this BTS out there because it's still fresh in my mind, and I kind of wanted just to get out all the things that I learned and things that I probably do differently. And I'll probably have some more things to say once the final edit is done and I really dive in and realize, probably should have done that differently. Probably I kind of goofed there, but that's just part of filmmaking. That's part of creating videos. You're gonna just screw up. You're gonna always learn something. There's always gonna be something that you could probably do better. And I think it's just important to take those as wins as opposed to losses and know, okay, well now next time I know I could do that differently. So it was really fun. I had a great time. The prep made this shoot go so smooth. It was one of the smoothest things I've been on at this scale ever in my career so far. It was so smooth because the band was prepared, the camera team was prepared, we had the gear prepared, and I really was confident in the song maps and what we were doing. And that was big for me, like really knowing the songs well so that I could direct my camera operators and that I could just know myself what we needed to get. And I think that would be my biggest advice is to really just know the material, whether it's songs you're shooting, whether it's a script, know it inside and out so that you know and you're kind of thinking ahead and you're thinking with the director or whoever's, if that's you, if you're the director, so you know really what's going on, what to come next, and it becomes instinctual and it just makes the whole day so stress-free. We had a great time. We were playing foosball at lunch. Had great food, cheesecake, all the things. It was awesome. And also, man, feed your crews. If you're a director, if you're somebody organizing shoots, make sure there's food, dude, because food will make people so much happier and it lightens the mood and it just makes things so much better. But let me know in the comments what you think about this shoot. What would you have done differently? If you have any questions, anything like that below, I'm always down to talk to you guys down there. So hit me up there. And again, follow my guys, Mike and Hudson on Instagram. They make great stuff. If you just like good filmmaking, go check those guys out. They're the best. Also, shout out to my friend Logan for shooting all of this BTS. He absolutely killed it. It was so nice to be able to have somebody just capturing BTS that whole day so I can actually show you guys what it actually looked like and all the things like that. So huge shout out to Logan for that. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy filmmaking, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know that you're here. There's gonna be a lot of videos like this on the channel. I look forward to meeting you in the comments below, but that's it. That's all I got for you. I'll catch you in the next one.